Welcome to a new entrepreneuring interview brought to you by the Arrowhead Center at NMSU. I'd like to welcome our guest today, Alonso from 11online.us. Thank you for joining me today, Alonso.
Good to be here, Garrett.
I appreciate it. Now, I guess to get things right out of the way, what is 11online.us? What do you do?
Yeah, we do many things. It turns out in 2017. But originally we started as a web design and website development firm, primarily doing content management system websites. And since then, we've branched out into application development, web application, mobile application development, and then also we offer digital marketing services and graphic design services. And that's more in the last few years.
Okay. I was about to ask if that was all there from the get-go, if this kind of evolved. How many years have you been with the company?
So technically, I've been with the company since the beginning of 2017. But what happened was I had another company and we merged. So it's a long story. But yeah, I've technically been with the company since January 1 of 2017. I've been the CEO since then. But like I said, we started the merger process in October, and I've been working with those guys in some form or fashion since June of last year of 2016.
So, how many of the services offered by 11 Online were there from the get-go, and how many became a part of the company after the merger?
Yeah, that's a good question. So like I said, we started more in the content management system website space. So primarily WordPress, and I think the original founders, they also were doing application work, and my company, which is another company called Hermes Development. We were also kind of really in the same stuff. We were doing websites, but also kind of dipping our toes into application dev. And basically what happened was when we decided to do the merger because we were working on a large-scale software as a service application development project. And it worked out really well. And kind of one thing led to another. We started talking about a merger. And we felt that if we had a merger and maybe even hired a few more people, we'd have a big enough team to take on large-scale application projects, and to sort of help give us the kind of credibility to get our foot in the door on some of these bigger projects. And then my feeling, just being in the website and CMS space, was there was always a missing piece from the services that we offered, right? So we a lot of times we were either contracted by an agency or by a small business to build a website, but then, a lot of the sites that we would build, a lot of times our clients wouldn't really understand or know what to do with them in terms of from the marketing angle. So we'd build in all the infrastructure for them to succeed, but then they didn't really have a lot of experience or know-how or counsel on how the site could actually, kind of improve their process and help them make more money. And so that's kind of when I realized that for us to really be a full-fledged agency, we really need to be able to be in a position to offer that kind of service where we create marketing funnels online, and we help them manage different marketing initiatives, kind of with the website being, the hub. So we started offering those services at the beginning of the year. And the way that worked was because during the merger, one of my partners, Josh, his wife she was a marketer, and she had been doing marketing for them just on the side. And just after talking to her, I felt like, she could be part of the company and really be the lead on all those marketing efforts. And so that's kind of how we did it. And she's Susie, she's our director of marketing. now we have a bunch of clients, marketing clients, where we're not really doing a ton of web development or web design work, but we're actually managing Facebook ads or their newsletter or writing blog copy, etc. So it's pretty exciting, to spend this last year growing that piece of the business. And from my end, I'm it's a little bit like more entrepreneurial and more of a I don't know what you'd call it, a startup effort, if you will, whereby you're just trying to grow some pieces of business out of almost nowhere, and out of nothing, and so it kind of tickles that part of my brain that doesn't get as tickled when you're just managing, a business and you have, 13 employees that you need to get paid. Not that there isn't an entrepreneurial piece, but it's just the building from nothing is pretty exciting.
Right. Blazing your own trail versus managing a known quantity.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
So let's talk about how you ended up here. Talking with so many entrepreneurs, over time you notice this theme where there's always a catalyst. There's always a jumping off point where just about anyone who owns their own business kind of made the leap from day job to forging their own path. What was that for you?
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to try and keep it short. So. Okay, so where I started was, when I finished up school, one of the things I did, and I actually did this when I was still in school, was I started teaching English as a second language, and I'm a native Spanish speaker, and so I taught some Spanish classes also, and so when doing that, I guess gave me a little taste, in that, we had a lot of leeway to run the classes the way we felt. We had a curriculum, but, we could kind of come up with exercises. I organized field trips. And so that, and when you're a teacher and you're teaching adults, you really, you have to be a leader, because if, we're talking about people that were working 60-hour weeks doing construction, they're tired, and if you can't sort of motivate them and lead them, and they're not going to stick around. So that gave me a little bit of a taste, and then I think also I started working for a company, a nonprofit, and I think on balance it wasn't a good experience. And what I realized about myself is that I don't think I'm really cut out for that kind of, go into the office, clock in, clock out type of thing. And I really tried to sort of insert my own passion, in that job. And I felt resistance all the time, from senior management and then from other coworkers, and there were also a lot of just politics and nonsense going on in that office, and it made it so that I really hated to go to work, and so right around that time, my wife, who's an academic, got a tenure track offer to come to New Mexico, the University of New Mexico, and so I was unhappy and in my professional life, and so I just decided to say yes and just go for it. And of course, the timing was interesting because when we got to New Mexico, my wife was 7 months pregnant with our daughter, with our first kid. So we got to New Mexico. My wife had the baby, and the plan was for me to hang out with the baby and stay home with the baby, because she had to start, I think it was, fall semester. And so I did that. It was great. I got to spend a lot of time with my daughter. I got to spent a lot of time with a baby, and I hadn't been around babies or anything like that in a long time. Um, Read a lot, played a lot of video games, uh, became like tried to become some sort of homesteader, and like a lot of yard projects, gardening and stuff like that. And probably a year and a half after that, I just got the itch to get out of the house and do things. And so at that point, I knew I didn't want to go back. I was kind of doing project management and on these data collection projects at the old place. I knew I didn't want to do that. And I found like a little teaching gig, and that was fine. But I think at the end of the day, I was ready for something totally different. In my old job, I'd worked with databases. I'd written database queries, and so I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to try and go into maybe back-end software development. So my wife was at UNM, and I was able to take some classes at UNM, tuition free or tuition discounted, which was awesome. And but then what I realized, probably about halfway through the semester, was, hey, this is going to take forever if I do this the traditional route. And I was just impatient, and I needed something different to try and accelerate what I wanted to get accomplished. And so that's when I found out about this coding boot camp here in Albuquerque. And I was a little bit skeptical, and there's kind of a lot of hype about coding boot camps and things like that. And so the nice thing about this one was it was very affordable. And it was also full-time for 9 weeks. And I think it fit into what I needed to kind of take the next step.
It was more of the speed you were looking for.
Yeah, definitely. And so I went to the coding boot camp, and two of the guys that I worked with on our capstone project, so the three of us, we were kind of looking for jobs or just work. And what we started doing was talking legitimately about, hey, what if we started our own thing? Which was very exciting to me because, I felt like maybe we could avoid a lot of the trappings or a lot of the problems that I had in other jobs. And so we agreed to try and do it. And then probably about a month in, what I realized was, if I don't spend 80% of my time doing sales, we were going to disappear very quickly. And so that's when I started shifting and started really kind of dipping my toes into being an entrepreneur and figuring out what that means. And it turns out it actually suits a lot of my sort of natural abilities and talents. And I didn't know that. I didn't understand that, I'd come from a background of professionals and, like my dad, he's an awesome guy, like he hated the business side of his job, like absolutely hated it. And so, and my uncle was an academic, and so I didn't really have a lot of role models in my family. And, I'd hung around in a lot of academic circles where, the idea of like going into business is like, I don't know. It's just not something people do. But it turns out that it was a really good fit for me. And so we started growing our business. One of our partners left because he was given a really nice offer from a big company in Santa Fe. And then we kind of had to rebuild the company after that. But it's been awesome. It's been an awesome journey. And professionally, I'm so much happier than I was before. And it just really allows me to express my creativity, and bring my passion in a way that working for someone else or working in this kind of corporate environment, it never could.
It's a deeply personal experience to build your own business. You learn a lot about yourself in the process.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think, I guess, I was worried that I didn't know if I had the fortitude mentally to power through that. I think another sort of misconception in my mind about doing this is that you do it in a vacuum, or you do it through your force of will. I mean, force of will is really important. There's no doubt about that. But I was very fortunate to have a great support system, and my wife and my family, my parents, they moved to New Mexico a few years ago, and so they were in a position to help out with kids. I've had twins since then, so now I have three kids, and so trying to do this and raise kids is just, I think, almost impossible, and just having the support it has been critical, and then also having the support of your partners. I can't understate that enough. I don't know if I would have been able to do this on my own, and just having shoulders to cry on, or other people to say, "Hey, we'll get them next time," or whatever it might be.
Having anyone to go to for perspective is
Right.
it's a lot. When you are in it, it's hard to take a step back and sometimes and see the bigger picture. And even as you're mentioning family members as a support structure, even if they're not working directly in the business with you, you never know when just venting to someone, they may see a different solution.
That's Yeah, that's right. Perspective. That's a good way to put it. And definitely my partners gave gave me a lot of that. I remember, I think when we started, I just kept thinking, hey, if I could just pay my mortgage, just my mortgage, it'd be awesome. I'd be happy forever. Like, it'll be enough to just let me keep doing this for a long time. And then and then so that starts happening, and then you're just not satisfied. You're just like, well, what if we could get it to this level or that level, and then so then you start sort of being internally disappointed if you don't get there so quickly. And then it's nice sometimes your partners remind you, and they're like, hey, remember when we were you know covering our rents or mortgages, and that was what made us happy? Like, remember that? um, so the pressure I feel is not from other people. It's the pressure I put on myself, to do good work, and to have the responsibility to run this company, and make sure that we have enough work, and we can grow and do the things that we want to do in the future. That's the pressure I feel. And honestly, I think a lot of times people talk about pressure and stress, and not all stress and not all pressure is equal. And when you have pressure and stress coming from a place of negativity, or maybe like a kind of a personal place, that's one thing. When you have stress and pressure, to continue building and doing an awesome job, and then you get rewarded when you do. I don't know. It doesn't feel the same to me.
I completely agree. You hit the nail on the head. So, talking about some of the other support structures, it is my understanding that you've taken part in both the BizSprint program at NMSU, and you're also an AIN Ventures client. How did NMSU help you get to where you are now?
Yeah, so I was tipped off to the BizSprint program. So we work in part. We work in a co-working space in Albuquerque, and so we work from home partially, and then we work from this co-working space, Fat Pipe. And the director there, Lisa, had gotten word about this program and sort of let every one of her tenants know. And at first, I looked at it and I felt like maybe we're not a good fit. This is maybe more maybe more for startups, and products and so forth. And, I started thinking about it and I was like, well, wait a second. We just got this romance novel author client, marketing client, and we're trying to grow our marketing business. And we just got into this very, very specific niche. And what would be really neat is if we had the opportunity to do some customer validation with people in her mastermind. She was part of this romance novel author mastermind. And so I thought, hey, it'd be great to sort of have that sponsored. And then also it would give me an excuse to reach out to people in her mastermind, and see if we can get some more clients. And so it's nice, it's like when you go and like when you're a service business, for all the plans that you make about entering weird spaces and things like that, most of the time in my experience, how you enter a certain niche or a space is just organically. You just meet people and they start talking to you about their problems, and then you start thinking about solutions. And so that's exactly what happened with this client. We were fortunate enough to be introduced to her, and then she started telling us all about the romance novel world. And it's not something I knew really anything about. All I knew was like Fabio on the cover of books. I didn't know anything else. I didn't know anything about how they're marketed now or any of that stuff. And so, just kind of happened organically. And, and then that's the way most of the kind of niches we find, that's the way we enter them. And so I thought, hey, it'd be really nice to kind of organically get into this niche, but then actually do the work of figuring out what these people really, really need and how that lines up with what we can offer.
So you quickly went from learning a business you never really saw yourself working within, which is romance novels, to once you had that covered, trying to think about what they were not already thinking about, what they were not seeing.
Right. And, we got our initial client, but you start talking to other people in that space, and there's a range of problems depending on what their sales are like, depending on how many ads they run, depending on how large their newsletter list is. So you start just learning, you start learning the sort of swath of problems, and you start thinking about, hey, how can we put together a package, that's going to kind of directly appeal to them. And then, because we're a software development company, you start thinking, what kinds of software products could we build? That either addresses their niche directly or addresses maybe a larger problem with the self-published ebook space. And then, so one of the things that has come out of our relationship with Juliana has been, will be that we're planning basically a company hackathon. So all of our developers are going to create a tool that we feel is going to address a lot of Juliana's problems in terms of how to run Facebook ads, balancing with the revenue from her books. And it's something that she had talked to us a long time about, and we were like, hey, and we had mentioned it to other people in her mastermind, and people were like, yeah, that'd be an awesome thing. That'd be an awesome tool. And so we're going to spend a day trying to see how far we can get in building something, an MVP. And who knows, it might turn out to be a product that could change our company. You don't know until you build it and people start using it. But so yeah, I mean, to kind of go back to NMSU, that was, the value of this. The value of this program really was allowing us to ask those questions and allowing us to refine our offerings and think about software. Because I think it's a really exciting, interesting, underserved niche. And so we're going to go down that rabbit hole.
Now, it's like you said at the very beginning of our talk. Even though you are an established company, it feels like a startup at times.
Certainly in that space, it does. I don't like so. When we meet with Juliana, we're talking about her release schedule. We're talking about what she's going to write. She puts out 2 books a month. So she's just a workhorse. And so she's thinking about ideas that will work in the market. And so, now that we know the market pretty well, I think we can all kind of sit down and have discussions about, hey, your late November release, what's that going to look like? How are we going to be able to build a compelling marketing campaign around that? And it just gets us into sort of weird discussions about book titles and I'm saying things in the professional context in terms of offering suggestions for book titles that I would never there's just not I would have never said anything like that or even come close to experiencing anything like that in my old gig. And it's awesome. It's awesome. I don't I like being free to pass on my creativity and affect how a product is developed and affect how a product is marketed. It's so fun. And I think one of the nice things about the way we're doing it, right, is that because it's one company, the software development piece, been profitable and bringing money for a very long time. And so I think there's a little bit less pressure on us to, let's say, take on work where we don't feel like we can deliver a value or, it's a little bit of a buffer in a way we didn't have when we started our software stuff. And I think there's probably pros and cons, but I think for me, the pro is it's really allowed us to focus on developing a workflow and thinking through our processes and also getting clients that are willing to let us experiment. That has been I think the key part of this. And so it's almost like the rest of the company is kind of a seed and an angel investor in our digital marketing initiatives. So it's pretty awesome. And just side note, our digital marketing initiatives right now are profitable. Certainly not nearly the margins that our software stuff is, but we have gotten to that place, probably since, I don't know, in the last few months. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the NMSU program also happened in the last few months. It just allowed us to do some of that work that oftentimes just gets pushed to the side.
Well, Alonso, I can't thank you enough again for sharing your story with us. You clearly have a lot of passion. Also, you clearly have the drive for success, which is always invigorating to hear that. So thank you. And before we go, where can everyone find 11 Online and more about what it is that you do?
Yeah, just go to our website, 11online.us, and we're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're on all the stuff. I'm sure you can find us if you search for us. But probably our website is where you're going to get a feel for what we are and what we do, and our spirit and so forth. And I don't know if you know, but what 11 Online refers to is it's from This Is Spinal Tap. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
I did not. I have. And that makes me so happy that that's what it's referring to.
Right. Yeah. So, we turn it up to 11 and all that stuff. And so if you look on the site, there's a lot of if you like Spinal Tap, there's a lot of stuff there.
A lot of Easter eggs.
A lot of stuff there that if you just read carefully or look carefully, you'll get it. I feel old now because I feel like younger people don't. I've never seen that movie, and they're just, it's like you talk about Spinal Tap, and they're, it's like a, card trick for a dog type of deal. But if you're into that, it's all over the site. So
awesome. Well, again, everyone go and check out 11online.us. And if you'd like more information about the BizSprint program or AIN Ventures, visit arrowheadcenter.nmsu.edu for more information on that regard. So, Alonso, thank you again, and we will see you next time for our next interview, everyone.